In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
It's time for the Rundown with Rob Sanders.
Well, we're waiting.
Welcome into the Rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400 around the world on the iHeartRadio app. My name is Rob Sanders. Thanks for joining us this afternoon. I tell you what, we're going to have time to talk a little bit here about the decision just made by Rob Manfred, the commissioner of Major League Baseball. But I set this interview up earlier, and I really wanted to get into this yesterday, but I figured my good friend from Tar Heel Illustrated, Andrew Jones, was going to be a busy guy covering the retirement of Roy Williams, and I want to definitely talk a little bit about that, but just shocked by that story from Major League Baseball, and we'll get into that momentarily. But Andrew, hey man, thanks for joining us on the show today, buddy. I really appreciate it.
Rob, it's always a pleasure to be on with you, my friend.
I'll tell you what, it's kind of the end of an era with Roy Williams retiring, and I read some of the numbers yesterday, and I think he had one losing season, which was the 2019 season, which was riddled with so many different things. But, just an amazing coach, and the way that he was able to relate with just about everybody.
Yeah, they hired him in 2003, he led them to more national championships, more Final Fours, more title game appearances, more NCAA tournament wins than anybody else. And if you're hearing the echo, I think I am salted. Sorry about that.
That's all right.
He's had more success than anybody since he was hired at Carolina. He's the fastest coach ever to 900 wins. He's coached 52 NBA players, 32 first-round picks. I mean, we actually had to hit a cutoff point when we were going to stop listing all the accolades and all the achievements because it was pretty huge. We wanted to get to actually our story otherwise. So he's had an amazing career. He's somebody that for a long time did not get the kind of respect I thought he deserved, but I felt like the 2017 national championship really changed a lot of people's opinions because it was not a loaded roster. It was absolutely a team. It was older guys who kind of grew in the program, and it was very Dean Smith-like. And I think, unfortunately, a lot of people wanted to see Dean Smith-like stuff from him a lot to try to give him the respect he deserved. But I think when you look at his career now that it's finished, he is the equal to Dean Smith. He is every bit as good as Dean Smith was. He wasn't the innovator, but he was maybe a little bit better in the postseason. Maybe that night where you had to get a win, there was a little bit more oomph behind what Roy Williams did. So they evened out over time. And if you're in the same conversation with Dean Smith, that's a pretty good place to be.
It most definitely is. And my thing that I wanted to ask you, though, is that in this season, did you have any inkling covering the Tar Heels that this may be his last year?
Well, I'll tell you what, a lot of us who have, only a few of us have actually been around the team a lot in recent years. It was different in so many ways that you didn't know if Roy came off as different because our world was different. Our lives were different. It took me a month and a half to get used to seeing him coaching the game, not wearing a coat and tie. So, I mean, it's little stuff like that. The shoe deal that he had this year, where each game he was wearing a different pair of shoes, and there was this whole thing going on about that. That became something. So, and that never was something before. So there were so many things that were so vastly different from any previous season. You didn't want to run the risk of maybe misinterpreting because everything was so different. But yes, to answer your question more specifically, in February, there were times where he just seemed almost reserved to the fact that his team was A, inconsistent, and B, there were just nights where he couldn't kick him in the pants the right way to get him going. And that frustrated him tremendously. I spent more time watching him during games than I had in previous years. Even last year when they had all the injuries and they lost all the close games, that club was not as talented as this team was. That club, and even when it lost players like Cole Anthony, they were rolling out a roster that North Carolina had never fielded before, certainly in my lifetime. So they were going to lose a lot of games regardless. This year's team was far more talented. They have several guys that are going to play in the NBA. and they didn't mesh at times. Sometimes they were fantastic and they played better late in the year, but there were times where Roy just looked beyond exasperated, more than I've seen him in the past. And then late in the season, I think it was against Marquette, he called a play and they didn't run it. And he blasted him after the game. And then 2 days later, we spoke to him in a presser, and he said that they will never do that again. Well, it happened against Wisconsin in the NCAA tournament. And I asked him last night in his press conference, if there was a seminal moment where he decided, this is it. He kind of went back to the Wisconsin game and said he kind of knew afterwards. And I think that moment when they didn't run that play and he just kind of turned to Steve Robinson, sort of shrugged, sat down, put his hand in his face for a second. Maybe that's the moment. I don't know. But that certainly, his reasoning was, I couldn't get them to do what I wanted. Well, if they're not going to run a play, that means you're not getting them to do what you want. And it's unfortunate. He didn't want to blame the kids. He's blaming himself. That's the way he's always been. But I do think this is something that has been gradually coming to this point and really came to a head here, probably in that game, really the last few weeks.
Do you think there's and you mentioned that he called a play and they didn't run? I mean, you think that he lost a portion of the team for this season?
No, I think it's communication. I think that people have been saying for the last 28, 30 hours, well, the game has passed him by. I don't believe the game has. And he said yesterday he can still coach. He's still a good coach. I just think maybe there's a cultural part that's passed him by, maybe the time gap. Some of the older coaches in the game are starting to struggle a little bit. So Leonard Hamilton's flourishing, so I guess he's the antithesis to that. But, Coach K had some issues with guys the last couple of years. Boeheim has kind of had the same thing up there at Syracuse. He loses a lot of guys. So it just maybe Roy just didn't communicate the way that he had before. I really don't know because I wasn't there. I wasn't in that huddle. I didn't hear him say, okay, guys, we're going to run this. He gave some examples where it was on him. Last year, the Clemson game, we talked after that when Clemson finally beat him in Chapel Hill.
Right.
He didn't tell him to foul. That's on him. And then he said this year, the Texas game in Asheville, it's tied with 20 seconds left. And he sent the team on the court and he turned to Steve Robinson and said, if I didn't have such a young team, I would trap the ball right now. So he was going against what had been conventional for him because of the youth of the team. And maybe he's just made some mistakes in his own mind. I don't know. I don't think the kids ignored him. I don't think he lost the kids. He had a really young team. And sometimes with really young teams, you got to tell them to put your left foot in front of your right foot a lot because sometimes they won't do it. So that may have been part of it as well.
I've talked to a lot of people and everybody seems to have a Roy Williams story. I'm going to share mine with you really quick and then I want to get yours if that's all right. So at
Sure.
ACC tip-off, 2 seasons ago, we're in downtown Charlotte and I'm standing in the valet line and I have to, I have to, take all of my equipment with me. I'm toting it all by myself. And there's a voice behind me. He goes, man, you got a lot of stuff there. And I turn around and it's Coach Williams. And we're standing in this long line and the valets are doing the best they can. And we struck up a little bit of a conversation. He goes, man, these guys got to move quick. I got to get home for dinner with the grandbabies. And he was more into, talking about family and everything else. And I had a 3 or 4 minute conversation with him about life that I'll always remember. We didn't talk 1 second about basketball, but it's something that I'll just remember for the rest of my days. He wanted to talk about his grandchildren. We talked about my son with his autism and all of that. And as we stood in the line, just like a couple of guys waiting to get our cars, and I'll never forget that. Do you have your favorite Roy Williams story?
Well, I have some that are pretty good and some that are not as good.
When you're on the beat, that's going to happen. So,
yeah, I've covered about 500 of his games in Carolina. So, you're going to have stuff. But by and large, my experiences have been positive, and really because I have covered the ACC for so long. I've gotten my share of K stories, and I've gotten a ton of Roy stories. And actually, the best thing is hearing like what you just said, because that's what I hear from everybody. I've never heard from somebody, Roy Williams dissed me. Roy Williams ignored me. I asked Roy Williams for a photo, and he said no. I asked Roy Williams for an autograph, and he said no. Quick sidebar on that. In 1978, my dad interviewed for a job with the New York Yankees. Okay, he was trying to get into front offices, and he was waiting outside Steinbrenner's office, and Reggie Jackson came out, and my dad asked him for an autograph. You know, as a baseball freak, and AJ would love to have a Reggie Jackson autograph. He said, "No, sir, but I'll shake your hand." Roy Williams would sign the autograph, would shake the hand, and pose for a picture. And that's just what you hear all the time about Roy Williams. So your story is very common, and that's kind of who he is, Rob. I've done a lot of spots the last couple of days. We've done a lot of podcasts, and I've tried to convey to people that what you see is what you get with Roy. There's no behind the curtain Roy Williams. The guy that couldn't wait to get home to eat Wanda's cooking and hang out with the grandchildren, that's the guy I know. That's the guy I've covered. That's the guy people randomly run into on the street when they see him. There's a famous picture, there's a well-known photograph that circulated among UNC media about 2 or 3 years ago. It was actually 3 years ago. They lost to Texas A&M in Charlotte in the NCAA tournament. And the next morning, I think it is, Roy and Wanda are at Dunkin' Donuts, just sitting over in the corner. And
you got to get your coffee, man.
Yeah, got to get your pastry.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
He probably had to go for an extra long walk. He walks 45, 50 minutes a day, as he says, just so I can eat Wanda's desserts. So there's a lot of realness stuff. There's a lot of genuine stuff to Roy Williams. And I'm glad you had that experience because it's completely consistent with so many things that I hear.
It changed the way that I thought of him because, you know, just from the outside looking in, and I don't cover as many North Carolina games as you do, but you know, you just get the aura of, okay, he's a legendary coach, but having that little moment with him, realize that, you know, he can come to the house and we can have barbecue, et cetera, and go from there. So that was my big thing with him. And then after that, I start paying more attention to him, and you're right. That's just kind of the way that he is. But
it's 100%. You know, Bobby Bowden was very much that way. You hear the same kind of stories about people that came across him, and I've learned over time. And you're around Dabo a lot more than I am. And I covered Dabo some early on in his tenure when I was with Fox. But the people who are fantastic at what they do, who are legendary, most of them have amazing people skills, and most of them are comfortable in myriad situations. Roy, definitely. You know, Roy could walk into a cocktail party and be okay. He could also break down on the side of the road and strike up a conversation he thoroughly enjoys, the guy who tows his car. And you know, Dabo's that way. Bobby Bowden was that way. A lot of great coaches are that way because to be great, you have to surround yourself with great people, and you have to be able to attract them. You have to be a people person. You have to be able to communicate in all kinds of situations, and that certainly sums up a guy like Roy, no doubt.
All right. Well, I hate to put a cap on this, but we have to talk about who may be the next coach at UNC. I was talking to Teddy Hefner, who does mornings with us here. And he was thinking that maybe Hubert Davis would be in the mix, but do you think they're going to go from within, or are they going to step outside of the Carolina circle there and get another coach?
Well, I was just finishing writing a piece when you called,
okay.
And I have not posted it yet, so I've got to do one more edit on it. I can tell you this much, that we started hearing some names really a week and a half ago because we first heard that this might happen Monday of last week.
Right.
And we actually had an NBA coach's name advanced to us. He's a well-known NBA coach who used to coach in college, who said that he would only return to college for two jobs, Kentucky and Carolina. So I think what they have is there was maybe a plan thinking that Roy would go another 3 or 4 or 5 years, but because he surprised a lot of people by doing this now, that the timing might not be right for that plan. So whether or not it's Wes Miller, I think a lot of people would be very happy and comfortable with Wes Miller because he's in the family. He's extremely well respected in the family. He's done an amazing job at UNC Greensboro. And equally as important, and this was something that a lot of UNC people are keeping an eye on, and I believe is one of the reasons he stayed at Greensboro, is he's proven he can sustain a program. A lot of guys can coach, but how many can sustain a program? That's what it's about at places like Carolina and Kentucky and Kansas. You've got to sustain that thing at a certain level. Wes has proven he can do that to a certain degree, but is he ready? The Hubert Davis factor, you know, I do think that there are people that would be very happy with him because he is such a Carolina guy. From his personality to the kind of individual he is, to the fact that his lineage goes back to Walter Davis, who was his uncle. Hubert used to hang out when he was a little kid when Dean Smith was coach. He played for Dean. He's got the NBA lineage, all that kind of stuff, but he has no head coaching experience. And Bubba Cunningham told us in the Zoom last night, Bubba's the AD at UNC, that he didn't say that I won't look at anybody who doesn't have head coaching experience, but if you read between the lines, he pretty much said that head coaching experience is basically a requirement. So I would be surprised if it's Hubert. Even I know Roy would support that. I think Roy would support Wes Miller as well. If they go outside the family, I believe that they will go for the home run type of hire, someone like a Brad Stevens with the Celtics. And he's 44 years old, Rob, and he's led Butler to 2 straight national championship game appearances, and he's led the Celtics to 3 Eastern Conference Finals. I mean, he to me would be the A-plus hire for anybody. And he's in his 8th year in Boston, and there's talk about maybe if he's going to make a move, now's the time to move it.
Right.
How often does a UNC job open up? It's open right now. So, there are some people who are saying that he would be a fascinating choice and might be the kind of guy who could come in from outside the family and be embraced by the family, because that's very, very important. There were a lot of former players there yesterday, and it's a family. It's a tight-knit family, and just not anybody can walk in and be accepted. So that would be very, very challenging. But people I've talked to said they believe Brad Stevens is someone that could be accepted. He could actually pull that off.
I'll tell you what, I think that will be an absolutely rock star hire there. Andrew Jones from Tar Heel Illustrated joining us today. And of course, you can find all of his information, including what he's about to post that I interrupted him on at TarHeelIllustrated.com, right?
If you interrupted me, I'm cool with it, man.
It helps when you're writing to take a break every now and then. So
it does, because then I get to go back and follow my typos. So that's good. It's easy to see when you walk away for a few minutes. Yeah,
I have that issue too. But TarHeelIllustrated.com, and where can they find you on Twitter?
At Heel Illustrated, not Heels, but at Heel Illustrated. And we're pumping stuff out like crazy. And we got a ton of stuff on our YouTube channel as well with Tar Heel Illustrated. So any Carolina fans are going to like a lot of the stuff we put up the last few days, including an interview I did with Marvin Williams after Roy's presser yesterday.
Oh, that sounds like some good stuff there for the Tar Heel fans. All right, Andrew, man, thanks so much for joining us today, talking a little bit about Roy Williams and who's going to be next at North Carolina. Thanks so much, man.
Always my pleasure, Rob. Thanks, man.
All right, there we go. Andrew Jones joining us here, talking a little bit about that. And I've got 2 stories that I wanted to get out there really quick there. First, this morning, if you follow along here on Fox Sports Radio 1400, Teddy Hefner was supposed to have Frank Martin on here, and he was basically told not to come on the show. I wonder why that is. We'll talk about that. But big news on the national front that we have to talk about today. The MLB is moving the All-Star game out of Atlanta. This just happened, ladies and gentlemen. I got to get your thoughts on this. It's almost disrespectful in one sense, though. They're supposed to pay homage to Hank Aaron. Yeah, they're still going to do that, but they're not going to do it in Atlanta. What a mess this has turned into. What an absolute mess. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk about that. Line up your calls now. They're pulling the All-Star game out of Atlanta due to the election laws in Georgia. It is not... I was absolutely stunned by that. I thought I was going to have a nice, fun Friday where I could talk about Roy Williams and the stuff that he did. And then all of a sudden, we've got this story here to send us off into the weekend. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, we'll have more for you in just a moment. You're listening to The Rundown. This is Fox Sports Radio 1400. P. Digits, you might be right. I don't know if Brad Brownell should be... What would Clemson fans send with Brad Brown? Everybody was trying to get rid of Brad Brownell yesterday. In fact, when I first saw the headline that Roy Williams was retiring, I was like, that's an April Fool's joke. I had to go to like 5 different sources that I trust, and I even texted Andrew, who I know would never lie to me about a story. Is this real? And he's like, yeah, it's real. I'm doing very well. Alan, how are you, sir? Doesn't Georgia play South Carolina this weekend in baseball? I believe that's so. Can you guys beat them so we can stop hearing all this noise from the Gamecocks are the best baseball team on the planet? That would be awesome. We need to be humble every now and then. Nothing wrong with that. Actually, I think South Carolina is really good. The more and more I watch that South Carolina baseball team, I'm like, what? What a mess. Those guys are awesome. All right, hold on a second here. I think it's wow. Wow on this whole baseball story. You guys doing all right over there? Everything good? You guys jacked up for the South Carolina women's team playing tonight against Stanford? They're a 6-point underdog. Tara Vanderveer's making comments about the officiating, I heard. Something like that. Whatever. If they call the game where it's like, hey, we're just going to, you're going to get popped or whatever, then that's different. If you get bumped the least little bit, we're calling a foul. Gamecocks might get blown out. If they call it like they're supposed to call it, it'll be a tight game. If it's because the Gamecocks play more physical, so I don't know. Welcome back to the Rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400 around the world on the iHeart Radio app. The big story today, the Major League Baseball has decided to move the All-Star game out of Atlanta in response to the new Georgia voting law that critics say unfairly limits access to the ballot box, especially for people of color. Here's the statement from Commissioner Rob Manfred. He said, over the last week, we've engaged in a thoughtful conversation with clubs, former and current players, the Player Association, and the Players Alliance, among others, to listen to their views. I've decided that the best way to demonstrate our values as a sport is by relocating this year's All-Star game and MLB draft. Well, look, I hate to break this to the commissioner. I guess I should say this first. I don't agree with anything where it's going to hinder your ability to vote, period. All right? I think that everybody is, if you are born in this country and you are of the age of 18, you should be allowed to vote. That's just one of our rights as an American. Okay, so let's make sure we put that out there now. But if I go to an Atlanta Braves game and I get tickets to an Atlanta Braves game, I have to show them my ID to get tickets. Just think about that for a second. If I'm going to go to your box office, I have to show them my ID to get tickets. Now, I am consistent in what I'm saying here, though. Major League Baseball is an organization. They can set their own process as far as what they want to do. I feel the same way about the Augusta National. If they set up, hey, this is what we want to do, or if they don't want to respond at all, they don't write the laws. But the commissioner of baseball is making baseball now a political sport. That's basically what it boils down to. And a lot of this may come from after calls from the White House where President Biden, he told ESPN Wednesday, that he would strongly support pulling the game out of Atlanta because of a law he described as Jim Crow on steroids. Well, let me explain something else to you too, sir. They've been marketing this game in Atlanta for a while now. You think it's not going to affect the people in Atlanta? You've basically zeroed out Atlanta and let's be honest, Atlanta is one of the more liberal cities in our country where I'm sure there are tons of Democratic votes that are there. Yeah, you're just penalizing that city. So congratulations on that. Now, Major League Baseball, here's what you should do, though. If you're going to be, all right, we don't want anything to do with Atlanta, then you should lean on Atlanta to move their games to another state. Just move the Braves out of there. They're going to end up changing their name to the Fighting Fish or something eventually anyway. You might as well move the Braves out of Georgia. Be consistent, ladies and gentlemen. That's what we want here this afternoon here on the Rundown. I don't understand what they're trying to accomplish with this. I don't get it. Yes, you can bring light upon that, and that's fine. But the elected officials of Georgia put these laws into place. Elections have consequences. Remember that? President Obama said that. If you don't like the people that are making the voting laws in your state, then vote them out. I don't understand, man. Especially with, you're going to have a ID to pick up baseball tickets. But they're upset about that portion of it. Now, there are other portions of the law that when you look at it, it's like, why are they doing that? I don't understand certain parts of it, but baseball should have nothing to do with that. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. That is the number to call to join us here on the Rundown this afternoon. Here on Fox Sports Radio 1400, of course, around the world on the iHeartRadio app. Would love to take your calls on this. We're going to talk with Tyler Crowder in just a little bit. He's obviously in Georgia. We'll get his thoughts on that, and he's got some NFL draft stuff that will go from there. We got some comments over here from Jimmy. Says, I'm upset with the South Carolina administration for not making a decision on Frank Martin's future with the program. All of this mystery is undermining his ability to maintain, much less enhance his roster. I'm just saying, yeah. I don't get that either. What's the deal with all that? Now they're going to say, well, he's under contract. What do you need to know? I'm sure we'll have a press conference next week, but we've also had two players leave the program, Jalen McCrary and the other young man whose name escapes me, Jermaine Cousinard, and one other player have decided to test the draft waters. So wouldn't it be nice if we kind of knew what was going on with the program? Just saying. There'll probably be a press conference next week. Now let's make sure we put this out there too. I think that Coach Martin, I don't think he has a problem talking to the media. Just saying. Probably somebody else somewhere. Who knows? I stand behind what Teddy Hefner tweeted out this morning, though. You can go and look at it. It's at the Teddy Hefner. I think is his Twitter handle. He was forbidden to come on our fine radio station here. Teddy was going to have him on to talk about the Final Four because he has a relationship with him, and they were going to talk about the Final Four. And, of course, it was laid off as, there's miscommunication. What are you talking about? You can't communicate with our guy that's here that's got 40 years in the business and knows every in and out of South Carolina athletics because he's covered it. You're worried about that guy putting something out there about the program that's not what you want to hear. Teddy wanted to talk to him about the Final Four. It's ridiculous. Teddy tweeted out about it 2 or 3 days in advance, so they knew it was coming. Ridiculous. The silliness and this all, hiding behind closed doors and stuff like that, it just makes you look silly. It really does. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. P Digits Online says, poor Martin took the Rona punch twice last year. Yes, he's a 2-time coronavirus survivor, man. And I'm not joking about that. He had the coronavirus twice and still managed to put his team out there. Now, you could argue, okay, maybe he should have had somebody else coaching, whatever. The point is that if anybody deserves one more year, it's Frank Martin. It's absolutely Frank Martin. And to think it's not is just silly. All right, Tyler Crowder is going to join us when we come back. We'll ask him about the Georgia election laws because he kind of lives in Georgia. So we'll get that. And we'll take calls a little bit later on, too. Here on The Rundown, right here on Fox Sports Radio 1400, of course, around the world on the iHeartRadio app. My name is Rob Sanders. Thanks for joining us today. We'll be right back in just a moment.
this is Ray.
And Mary Ann with Absolute Glass.
We would like to thank Lexington for voting us Best Glass Shop in Lexington for 10 years in a row.
Absolute Glass specializes in high-end auto glass replacement and repair.
We also do home windows,
Patio doors,
tabletops,
shower doors,
mirrors,
door front.
and decorative glass.
Find us online at absoluteglassinc.com.
And remember, if you can see through it, we can do it.
This is Rob Parker. Here's what's trending from the iHeart Sports Network.
Presented by LifeLock Identity Theft Protection.
Carolina AD Bubba Cunningham says his next Boots coach may not have ties to the Tar Heels. Cunningham searching far and wide to replace the retired Roy Williams.
All right. Does anybody over there watching think Frank Martin doesn't deserve one more year? I mean, one more year. What do we lose from that? You damn right. I wish I could order some pizza. My chunky ass can't eat pizza right now because I'm doing this powerlifting meet. Ugh, can't eat any pizza right now. I get one cheat meal a weekend, and it's Friday, so I got to eat my bland food basically. I wish I could order some. See, now you got me wanting pizza. He can coach, Edwin. My goodness, man, I sound like I'm 12. All right, let's go out to the phones. Out to the phones we go. We welcome in the host of Kicking It with Crowder, Georgia resident. You know what? I'm blaming you, Tyler. It's your fault. You live in Georgia. That's why the All-Star Game's not Atlanta. You need to shoulder that blame, sir. Welcome to the program, Tyler Crowder. What's going on, buddy?
What's up, Rob? Thanks for having me, man.
Are you going to shoulder the load of the All-Star Game leaving Atlanta, sir?
Yeah, I mean, it's unreal. I'll take the blame. I'll take all the listeners out there. I'll take the blame if I have to. But at the end of the day,
all right, send your hate tweets to @KickingItWithCrow. That's where all of your hate tweets need to go. @KickingItWithCrow.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. Honestly, I feel like they kind of caved into political pressure and things like that. The All-Star Game has been set for years. And this new law that, Georgia's trying to pass, there are things that make a lot of sense about it. You need to have a valid ID. Voter fraud is a real thing, but then they also have some other things like saying you can't pass out water and refreshments to voters. I feel like that's wrong. You should be able to do that. So there are some things that definitely need to be looked at, and hopefully they're able to look at it. But, it's always it's always tricky when you bring in politics and sports together, but it's 2021, so it's going to happen.
Let me get my thing on that. The whole thing with passing out water, if most primaries are held in July, if you're standing in the Georgia heat in July, if you don't pass out water, people are going to die. I'm just being as real as I can here. You're going to tell people they can't pass out water 100 and what is it? I can't remember the distance from the actual polling station. That's stupid on a monumental level. I don't understand that at all. I mean, and how does a bottle of water affect your ability to, change somebody's vote? That's just dumb. Yeah, the whole thing is just dumb.
It's inhumane. It's inhumane, honestly, and that's the big thing I have. That's that's one of the big issues I have with this. Like when I heard that, I was like, what? I couldn't believe that. But there are some things with the law that people don't want to understand that, if you need to be a U.S. citizen, you need to have a valid driver's license. You can't just let everyone vote. It's not like that. This isn't a high school popularity contest with the student council or something. I mean, this is for the president of the United States, and you have that right to vote. And if you're a U.S. citizen, you should have every right to be able to vote. So at the end of the day, they have got to change this, but, making the Braves kind of a scapegoat or making the All-Star Game out of Atlanta, they're kind of sending a message. And I'm not sure if it was the right. I don't
think it's the right message, but I also think they need to be consistent. If you can't have the All-Star Game there, then move the Braves out of Atlanta. Make the Braves go play somewhere else until they get the laws the way that you want them. Be consistent. I mean, don't just pick out one thing here or there. Be consistent. I think the other thing that bothers me is, they're still going to honor Hank Aaron. Really? Yeah. You're going to honor, and they'll probably have it. They haven't announced where it's going to be, but okay, we're going to honor Hank Aaron somewhere else. Okay with that. Anyway.
Yeah.
All right, but before
Maybe
we get
Milwaukee. Maybe they'll do Milwaukee. 'Cause he played with us,
Milwaukee,
maybe they could go
I
there.
could stomach Milwaukee. That's fine. But you got some great NFL stuff that you put out on your latest show. Yeah, man, I've been doing some draft stuff. You got any draft nuggets you'd like to share with us here on the rundown this afternoon?
Yeah, I the big storyline has been San Francisco trading up, of course, from 12 to 3 with the Miami Dolphins, and then the Dolphins moving from 12 back to 6. So basically you have the 49ers giving up 2 first-round picks to move up 9 spots plus a third-round pick. So obviously they like one of these quarterbacks. And the word on the street is Mac Jones is going to be selected by the San Francisco 49ers. And I just want to let people know, not so fast, my friend, because I'm telling you, if the 49ers were to select Mac Jones over Justin Fields, it would be a travesty for that. Not only for trading up all that ammunition for only 9 spots, where you probably could have maybe got Mac Jones at 12 if you just stay put. I mean, it's just, I don't know if this is the biggest smokescreen in NFL history or if there's really some fluidity to it. Mac Jones is rumored to be going to San Francisco. I would highly recommend that the San Francisco 49ers take a better look at Justin Fields, because as a prospect, it's hard for me to take Mac Jones over Justin Fields as a prospect. Yes, things can happen, but just the athleticism of Justin Fields. I mean, the guy he's 6'3", 215. We saw what he did after he took the hit from the Clemson linebacker last year, being able to come back in the game and cuff it out and getting that big win over Clemson, which was that was a big win for Ohio State, because they were not able to beat Clemson so far in their history. And it was a big win for Justin Fields. And I feel like Mac Jones and Justin Fields, I feel like there's some truth to Mac Jones at 3, but if I had to bet right now, Rob, I'm going to go ahead and say Justin Fields is going to be drafted by the San Francisco 49ers. It just makes too much sense with Kyle Shanahan, his system. He likes a mobile quarterback. I mean, and he can sit behind Jimmy Garoppolo for a year. So I don't think that San Francisco moved up 9 spots and traded away all that ammunition to go up and get a Mac Jones. Nothing wrong with Mac Jones. He's in my top 20 overall players in this draft, but just he doesn't really have the arm talent. Now, he's a very accurate passer down the field. He's a very cerebral quarterback. He's going to work hard. He's going to do all the right things. He's got Kirk Cousins written all over him. But is he
That's
better
not
than
very
Justin Fields? I just don't think that.
Yeah, we're gonna call him Kirk Cousins. Okay. Yeah, no, I don't know what the 49ers are gonna do. It's amazing though how in the span of 2 years, what was it, 2 years ago, Jimmy Garoppolo was playing in the Super Bowl, right? Now it's like, okay, you're just gonna be a somebody that holds the road down until we can get this new quarterback in. It's funny how things change so quickly, Yeah,
and he's like 25-9 as a starter, or 25-11, something like that with the 49ers. He's had some injury issues.
Yeah, but I read the stuff where the Patriots were worried about that too, like he couldn't stay on the field. And you've heard the adage before, you can't make the club if you're in the tub. And when you're spending that much money on a quarterback, he's got to be able to play. So, I mean, I can understand that too, but it's just funny how things can change so quickly. I'm not buying Mac Jones at 3. I think that's kind of a reach. I think that I think people are more high on the quarterback from BYU than both of those guys. So, I mean, Trevor Lawrence is clear-cut number 1, but the talking heads I see all love the BYU quarterback over those guys. Maybe that's what they're going to do is go with him. Who knows?
Yeah, Zach Wilson, I really like his talent. Trevor Lawrence, like you said, he's a clear-cut number 1 pick, number 1 overall prospect in this draft. And it looks more and more each day like the New York Jets are going to part ways with Sam Darnold and draft Zach Wilson. So the draft really starts at 3. And then, my Atlanta Falcons sit at 4 with, hey, if you want a quarterback, you want Trey Lance, Justin Fields, Mac Jones, you're going to be able to get 1 or 2 of those guys at 4. If I'm the Atlanta Falcons, I'm taking every call very seriously, and I'm letting people know that, hey, if you want this pick, you're going to have to give me some ammunition, but I wouldn't mind trading back if it was in the top, 9 picks. So Detroit at 7 and Denver at 9. Those are the two teams to watch out for. I don't think the Falcons would make a move with Carolina at 8 unless they just gave up, just a ransom. I just don't think you trade inside the division and then let that other team get a quarterback who you may have to face for the next 10 years. So I feel like Detroit and Denver are the teams to watch there, Rob. But, man, it's just going to be an exciting month heading into the draft. And you never really know. I mean, I'm not an insider. I'm just going off of what I'm hearing and what I'm seeing. And if the Atlanta Falcons were smart and if they want to keep Matt Ryan, maybe they can just drop back a few spots and select a guy at 7 or 9 and get some ammunition to maybe help build this roster, because there's many holes on the Atlanta Falcons roster, not just one position. So really excited to see what Carolina does with their quarter. Do they get a quarterback, or do they go in another direction? So just interesting stuff coming out of the NFC South and top 10 of the draft.
Tyler Crowder, host of Kicking It with Crowder. Tyler, tell folks where they can find your show and where they can follow you on Twitter.
Yeah, guys, I'm basically anywhere you get your favorite podcast. I'm on Spotify, Apple, the iHeartRadio app. You can also find me on YouTube and on Twitter, guys, at Kick It with Crow. Got a lot of good stuff coming this week before the draft, so y'all check it out, okay?
There you go, man. Tyler Crowder, host of Kicking It with Crowder, joining us on the Rundown. Tyler, we appreciate it, buddy. We'll see you down the road.
All right, Rob. Thanks for having me, man.
All right, there you go. Tyler Crowder joining us here on the Rundown this afternoon. Quick break. When we come back, we'll wrap up the week here on the Rundown. This is Fox Sports Radio 1400. You guys are awesome over there. I appreciate you guys, as usual. Oh, man.
In February and May 2016, Johnson & Johnson was ordered to pay $72 million and $55 million by 2 juries to 2 women who contracted ovarian cancer after years of using talcum baby powder products. If you or a family member has been diagnosed with ovarian cancer and used talcum powder products,
See, it sucks, man. I wish I could have some pizza, but it's not happening. Promise my coach, man. I'm trying to be deliberate and everything with everything that I eat right now. So
don't fight this alone. If you or a loved one used talcum baby powder-based products before being diagnosed or died from ovarian cancer, call Talcum Powder Help now at 800-833-0112. 800-833-0112.
by the way, I'm not having a show next week on Thursday and Friday. Taking the day off, a couple days off with the kids. They're on spring break. So I don't know. We're going to go do something. We're going to go hang out somewhere, do something. Put them in the car. Go from there. You guys have plans for Easter over there? What are you guys doing? Why would I go to Alabama? I'm not going there. It's like, no, that ain't happening. Go to Alabama. No. Well, the basketball tournament will be over, so I will, I'll have baseball and stuff to get into, but it's kind of a dead period in sports right now for a couple weeks anyway. Then you got to get geared up for the baseball tournament. So, and after the baseball tournament, it's all football again, man. who's doing this, who's doing that, projections and all kind of stuff. What's this team going to have? Then media days and all that comes up, and then boom, we're right back into the groove, man. What's this team going to do? What's that team going to do? Starting to go through all the ACC and SEC teams and seeing who's coming back and who's leaving and who can do this and who can do that and the transfers. Oh, that's a mess. Oh, that sounds good. I'm thinking about I might do some barbecue on Sunday. I kind of have that for my cheat meal for the week is some barbecue. I'm doing a lot of everything I do is grilled now anyway, but I think I can get by with some barbecue on Sunday. Just eat that. That might be a good idea. might do that. That might work. Welcome back to the Rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400 around the world on the iHeartRadio app. Final segment of the day. Thrills Mills is going to join us in a moment. He's going to be doing the he's getting into battle mode. He may be the biggest South Carolina women's basketball fan I know. He's going to come in here and yell at us about how Don Staley is great. We'll have that for you in just a moment. He's not really the angry fan, but he's jacked for tonight's game. So we have to preview that. It's the Final Four. Don Staley's team's done a heck of a job. She's the best coach at South Carolina, in my opinion, and trying to get her team in line for another national title. The top story of the day we talked about earlier, Atlanta loses the All-Star game due to the controversial Georgia election laws. Yeah, what a mess. What an absolute mess all of that is. I asked folks online what they were doing for Easter. P. Digit says he's smoking tri-tip and Easter garlic calabash. It sounds pretty good. I might do some barbecue on Sunday. Some people only do like ham, like they have like an Easter ham and stuff like that. I remember when I was a kid, that was a big thing. Mom would make a ham, but we don't kind of do that. We do all kind of different things for Easter. In fact, I think that like Thanksgiving, we do the whole turkey thing, like a traditional thing like that, but Easter's different. I don't know. To figure out what we're going to do there, but I like the idea of the barbecue for Easter. Some I might stop at the store on the way home and get something and get it ready. Anyway, just a crazy story out of Atlanta with that. And you're welcome to call in 803-978-1832. I think they should be consistent. If it's not good enough for the All-Star game, then you shouldn't have any major league products there. Move Atlanta out of move the Braves out of Atlanta until they fix it. Just saying. Don't just dip your toe, do the whole thing. Why not? I mean, you're Major League Baseball. You can compensate the owner of the Braves for what they were going to make this year. There you go. Just a thought. Obviously, we'll take calls on that at 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. That is the number to call if you want to join us here on the Rundown this afternoon. We do have the Final Four this weekend. I have my bracket is garbage, by the way. I joke about Lawton Swan and his bracket, but his bracket is not nearly as bad as I actually haven't seen his bracket. His bracket may be hot dog water too. But my bracket is really bad. The Final Four, the four teams that are left, you've got Houston and Baylor. I'm going to take Baylor to get the win there. And I don't know why, but you know what? I'm going to take UCLA just because I'm bitter. I'll take UCLA over Gonzaga, even though my brain tells me Gonzaga's probably going to win. My heart says UCLA should win, but we'll go with Gonzaga. Why not? Baylor and Gonzaga, the 2-1 seeds, will match up for the national championship. I think I read that Baylor has won 25 games in a row by double digits. Excuse me, not Baylor, Gonzaga. So, yeah, maybe I shouldn't shortchange them so much. I don't know. We shall see. We shall see. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. That is the number to call if you would like to join us here on the rundown as we wrap it up this afternoon. Of course, Gamecocks and Stanford tonight. Stanford plays a little bit different style than the Gamecocks do. They, I was reading that Tara Vanderveer wants more of like a free-flowing type game, whereas South Carolina, they're more physical in what they do. And when you've got Boston in the middle there, she can do a lot of things. But when I've watched South Carolina in the tournament, it seems like they have issues with, it seems like right around the basket sometimes. They're missing some layups and everything else. If they clean that up, they can beat this Stanford team. I truly believe that. And remember, they went into UConn earlier this season and they lost that game, but they sure did look like, hey, they were on that level with Gino Auriemma and the Huskies up there. So, South Carolina, I think it started out that South Carolina was a 3-point underdog. Now it's up to like 6 points, something like that. UConn's playing Arizona in the other round, I think it is. They're going to win that game handily. But the best matchup of the night will be South Carolina and Stanford. And if they allow the game to be physical, not necessarily physical, if they don't call ticky-tack fouls, South Carolina will probably win that game. I truly believe that. If they can move the ball around and get Boston into spots where she can be isolated and go up, she's going to be fine. Stanford does have one young lady that's 6'4", may have the ability to kind of clog up the lane, protect the rim a little bit, but I just think South Carolina is just too strong. Just my opinion. So we'll see how that matchup goes tonight. I guess Thrills is blowing us off. He's in there doing something in the other studio. I was going to get him to say some nice Gamecock things on the way in, on the way out. But yeah, instead, we'll talk about Lawton Swan of Clemson Sports Talk. He is the czar of Clemson sports.
Stop looking at me, Swan.
Yes, it's Friday at Castle Day Swan. He's got the alligators in the moat. They're all listening to some music so that they won't be interrupting him as they crawl down the street. It's just Lawton Swan, his bat of show tunes, and one of the best shows in the country, Clemson Sports Talk. I know Clemson's on the marquee, but it's still just a great show. You can follow Lawton on Twitter. He's at Clemson Sports. His website is clemsonsportstalk.com. My blog page at foxsportsradio1400.com has all kinds of stuff. I'm going to be writing something about the UFC. They're going to have the Poirier-McGregor fight set for UFC 264. Poirier is going to knock McGregor into next month. And the UFC needs to stop messing with us. John Jones and Ngannou need to fight. That's pretty much it. That's the only fight that matters right now in the UFC. And until we get it, you're screwing the fans. Figure it out. All right, we'll be back at it over the weekend, on Monday, after a fine Easter weekend. Happy Easter to you from Fox Sports Radio 1400. You're right about that, Digits. You're right about that. You guys are awesome. I'll see you guys on Monday. We're not doing a Rob and Kale show on Sunday night because of Easter. So we'll talk to you guys later on. You guys have a great week.